there's a fear of beards? That's really interesting to know, Kel. What? Why do I have my coffee thing in the window? Oh. Because I'm on the wrong one. Okay, well, now maybe chat will show back there. Nope, there it is. Damn. I hope I'm not coughing all night. I apologize if I do. I'm still trying to get over the stuff I had last week. So hopefully it'll get over it sooner or later. But paganophobia. The fear of beards. Okay then. Cal is full of all sorts of trivial nonsense. But that's why I don't pay her the big bucks. I've been drinking a lot of tea over the past week. And hasn't completely helped. Of course, the weather hasn't been helping much either. It's hot and dry, and then all of a sudden, boom, thunderstorms. So all the pollen that's left over is everywhere. And, I'm actually on some prescription stuff to help clear it up too. May or may not be, cough medicine with codeine in it, but antibacterials too. Let's see, should I check my sound alerts just to see if they're going to work today? I heard it on my end. Did it play out there? I heard it again. Ruh-roh. Again, Scooby-Doo's playing on my end. But will the actual sound alerts work? Well, I'm hearing it. I just really want to make sure the sound alerts work because they're the only ones that have bits tied to them occasionally. And, I don't want people wasting bits. It's not TTS. But yes, I do plan on staying fairly well hydrated. In fact, I'm drinking tea. I've got tea and water. I'm gonna have to change that message because Stream Elements is no longer doing the shop. They shuffled it off to another company. So I had to redesign the book bags and whatnot. Which is sad because the Stream Elements one, they were actually embroidered logos. Whereas the one they're doing now is printed like Redbubble is. So the quality is not as good. Why do I have Charlie? I said, oh, my tree. Okay. I forgot I didn't do a separate Christmas one for this one. Yep, because all my lights are still here too. But anyway, I guess I should switch over to the study. Because we're reading this book. I actually have this copy. The Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. And I've actually been rather pleased with the stories I find in it. Because they're not written like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, although there are some Arthur Conan Doyle stories in here. But they're not Sherlock Holmes Arthur Conan Doyle stories. And the one I read, the last stream I actually read one, was out of Diaries of a Doctor. And it was actually written by a doctor. And the stories have been pretty interesting. But the one story took the entire stream last time. So I don't want to guarantee how many stories I'm going to get through tonight. Especially with my coughing as it is. I'll be doing good to remember to mute. Which I probably won't, because I don't have just a random mute button. That would make life so much easier. But my mute button on my microphone is literally touching the center of the microphone. And muting on OBS. I have so many different audio jacks right now. I have to find a particular one. Yes, I muted it once. I'd go through and find it. But anyway, it's not quite time yet. Oh yeah, and I think I'm only going to miss one weekend in July because they've been going back and forth on whether or not we're actually going to take the vacation, so I might just miss one session, which won't be bad. I'll probably just do random straight from my phone streams, but I think I'll only miss the one weekend of the gaming session, so hopefully it's not going to be that far off. I think we're... Let me check my calendar. Okay, July. The only weekend I will miss is the 13th and 14th. So, as I said, not too bad. And if we do our session 0 at the beginning of July, that'll be the weekend after. So it'll just be 1 week before I get introduced, I guess. Which I guess will work into the play well enough. I don't know. That's up to you. Let's see. 9:07. I'll give it a couple more minutes before I get into the story. Which will be another one from the... let me read the title of it. I'm going to say the title again at the beginning of it. But it's called Stories from the Diary of a Doctor by L.T. Meade and Clifford Halifax, M.D. So. Oh yeah, I figured we'd do a session 0, which would be the first one. So I should be here... I'll be here the first weekend of July, off the second weekend, then I'm free the rest of the time. So shouldn't be too bad. Again, it's been kind of back and forth with whether or not we're even going to get to go on the trip or not, so. Okay. As I said, if anything else, if I don't miss the first story session, it would be easy for me to just stumble into the group if anything else. I'm probably going to go with the animalistic traits anyway. Anything else, I'll have my phone and probably take my tablet with me just so I can keep up with things. So I really don't want to lug my laptop up there. But did all the sound alerts play? That's where I was going to check again. I really will try to mute before I cough, if I feel enough notice beforehand. Because often I can edit out minor pauses, so. Ouch. I just closed the book on my hand. Anyway. Let's get into the story for the night. Stories from the Diary of a Doctor by L.T. Meade and Clifford Halifax, M.D. The Ponsonby Diamonds. Few cases in their day interested in me more than that of the Barrow Temple, and this, not so much of the medical point of view as from the character of a strong-minded and brave girl. It was on the occasion of her mother's death that I first became acquainted with Beryl. Okay, quick aside. Beryl is actually a name in my lore story. I'm just fascinated by the fact that it's in the story as well. Anyway. She suffered keenly at the time, but her courage and presence of mind and the fine self-suppression aroused my interest. And when, a month afterward, she came to me and told me in the simple manner which always characterized her that she was not only friendliness, but without means of support, I eagerly asked in which way I could help her. She replied with a blush, something like tears in her eyes. "Of all the things in the world," she said, "I should like best to be trained as a hospital nurse. Do you think I am suited for the profession?" "Admirably," I replied. "You have nerve and self-control. You have also good health, and, although I am sure that you have plenty of heart, would never be mawkishly sentimental." "Oh, no," she answered. "I am glad you approve." "I cordially approve," I replied. "In many cases, the profession of nursing is best undertaken by women who are not too highly cultivated, and whose position is below that of the supposed lady. But you, Miss Temple, will make an admirable nurse. Your particular characteristics fit you for this calling." I saw by the expression on her face that my words pleased her. I helped her to take the necessary steps to become a probationer at one of the large hospitals. She entered on the profession with enthusiasm. Her time of training passed without hitch, and in due course I placed her on my own special staff of nurses. I had been by no means mistaken in Miss Temple's qualifications. Her nerve was wonderful, her tact perfect. Although slight and rather delicate-looking, she had a great reserve of strength, and I never knew her to break down or fail in any way, even when the case she had to attend to was involved with some serious difficulties. For nervous cases in especial, I found Miss Temple invaluable, and it so happened that she was the first person I applied in the case of a very particular patient, Lady Violet Dalrymple. I was sent for the country to see Lady Violet in the autumn of the year of 1889. I remember the night when the telegraph came to me from her mother, the Countess of Erstfield. Lady Violet was only a child, a girl of 17. Lady Erstfield had once brought her to see me in town. I then considered her an overgrown, somewhat nervous girl, had ordered change, a quiet life, plenty of fresh air, plenty of nourishment, and plenty of congenial occupation, and had felt assured that these remedies were systematically followed out. The young girl would quickly recover from her nervous derangements, which were just interfering with her health and happiness. By the tenor of Lady Erstfield's telegram, however, I feared that this was not the case. "I'm very anxious about Violet. Come without delay," she wired. I replied by telegram that I would arrive at Beach's by the late train that evening. I did so. Lady Erstfield was up. I had a long interview with her and got all possible information with regard to my patient's state of health. I did not see Lady Violet herself, however, until the following morning. At an early hour that day, I was taken into a pretty boudoir, where I found my patient lying on a sofa. It was a room furnished with all that taste, money, and love could suggest. Books, flowers, pictures, birds in cages, all that was gay and bright, surrounded the lovely girl who lay pale and languid on a sofa drawn close to an open window. This window commanded a perfect view of the river, the woods, and the meadow, with a distant peep of low-lying hills against the horizon. To my eyes, accustomed to London bustle and noise, this view alone was restful and delightful. Drawing a chair forward, I sat down to my patient and entered into a commonplace talk with her. I purposely asked Lady Erstfield to leave us, for I knew that, by experience, that in nervous cases, the patient was far more inclined to be confidential and to reply truthfully to questions when alone with the physician. Having carefully examined Lady Violet and made certain that she was suffering from no organic disease, it only remained for me to conclude that she was a victim to one of the many ill-defined and misunderstood nervous disorders, which, by their variety and complexity, present the greatest difficulty in medical practice. The treatment, as I saw at once, must be moral, not medical. "I don't find much the matter with you," I said cheerfully. "Your disease is more fancy than reality. Instead of lying here, you ought to be having a gallop across the moors yonder." Lady Violet gazed at me with a look of surprise, and even faint displeasure in her large brown eyes. "I love riding," she said in a gentle voice, "but it is long since I have had the pleasure of a canter over the moors, or anywhere else." "You should not give up riding," I said. "It is a most healthful exercise and splendid tonic for the nerves." "I don't think you can realize how very weak I am," she answered, something like tears dimming her eyes. "Did not Mother explain to you the strange symptoms from which I suffer?" "The symptoms of which you complain are clearly due to an overwrought imagination," I replied. "You must try to curb it by every means in your power. I assure you I am only telling you the true state of the case when I say that there is nothing seriously the matter with you." She sighed and looked away from me. I took her slim hand in mine and felt her pulse. It was weak, fluttering, and uneven. I bent forward and looked into her eyes. The pupils were slightly dilated. Still, I held firmly to my opinion that nervous derangements, the most convenient phrase, was at the bottom of all that was wrong. "Now," I said, rising as I spoke, "I will prescribe a drive for you this afternoon, and in a day or two I have no doubt that you will be strong enough to get on horseback again. Take no medications, eat plenty, and amuse yourself in every way in your power." Soon afterwards I left the room and saw Lady Erstfield alone. "Your daughter's in an instance that of all too common condition which we call neurathema," I said, although, unlike the name, the disease is not a coinage of the 19th century. Still, it has greatly increased of late, and claims for its victims those who have fallen out of the ranks of the marching army of women, and their advancing education and culture of their sex. I don't understand your placing Violet in that position, said Lady Erskfield with reddening cheeks. My dear madam, I replied, your daughter is undoubtedly the victim of overculture and little to do. Were she a farmer's daughter, or were she obliged in any other way to work for her living, she would do quite well. The treatment which I prescribe is simply this: healthy occupation of every muscle and every faculty. Do all in your power to turn her thoughts outwards and to arouse an active interest in her mind for something or someone. I assure you that although I am not anxious about her present state, yet cases like hers, if allowed to drift, frequently end in impairment of intellect, and, in some degree, either small or great. Lady Erskfield looked intensely unhappy. Violet is our only child, she said. Her father and I are wrapped up in her, although you seem to apprehend no danger in her life. Well, there is none, I interrupted. Yet you allude to other troubles which fill me with terror. There is nothing Lord Erskfield or I would not do for our child. Will you kindly tell me how we are to provide her with interests and occupations which are to restore her mind to healthy condition? I thought for a moment. Lady Violet is very weak just now, I said. Her whole constitution has been so enfeebled with imaginary fears and nervous disorders that a little good nursing would not come amiss to her. I propose, therefore, to send for a nurse to look after your daughter. Lady Erskfield uttered an exclamation of dismay. A hospital nurse, she exclaimed. The mere word will terrify Violet into hysterics. Nothing of the kind, I answered. The nurse I propose to send here is not an ordinary one. She is a lady, well-born and well-educated. She is extremely clever and is remarkable both in her tact and gentleness. She thoroughly understands her duties. In this case, they will consist mainly of amusing Lady Violet in her most strengthening and invigorating manner. Her name is Temple. I will ask you to call her Miss Temple, and never to speak of her or to her as a nurse. She will soon win her way into your daughter's heart, and I shall be greatly surprised if she does not become more or less indispensable to her. She is just as healthy-minded, as bright, and as strong as Lady Violet is in the reverse. Sorry. After a little more conversation with Lady Erskfield, it was arranged that Miss Temple was to be telegraphed for at once. I wrote her a long letter giving her full directions with regard to the patient. This letter I left with Lady Erskfield, and asked her to deliver to Miss Temple as soon as she arrived. Then I went to bid Lady Violet goodbye. She looked even more wan and exhausted than when I had seen her in the morning. I thought it well to let her know about Miss Temple's arrival. She is a thoroughly nice girl, I said. She will nurse you when you want to be nursed, and amuse you when you want to be amused, and let you alone when you want to be quiet, and you will find her so fresh and bright and entertaining that you will soon, I am persuaded, be unable to do without her. Goodbye. Now, I hope you will soon be much better, both for your mother's sake and for your own. Lady Violet raised her brows. Is Mother unhappy about me? She asked. She loves you, I said steadily, and is quite worn out with anxiety about you. I wish her mind to be relieved as soon as possible, and I think it is your duty to do what you can towards this end. What do you mean? Asked Lady Violet. In your mother's presence, I answered, you ought to endeavor as much as possible to overcome the melancholy which has taken such possession of you. Seem to be gay, even when you don't feel it. Try to appear well, even when you don't think you are. When you're alone with Miss Temple, you can do, of course, exactly as you please. But when with your father and mother, you ought to make a strenuous effort to overcome the morbid feelings, which are due entirely to the nervous weakness from which you are suffering. Lady Violet looked at me intently. I love my father and mother, she exclaimed. Oh, not willing to hurt the feelings of either, but oh, how little you know of what I suffer of when you speak of my suppressing my trouble and terrible depression. Am I not always suppressing my fears? Oh, how hateful is it to me, how distasteful, how hollow, how I should like to die beyond anything, and yet I'm such a coward that the near approach of death would terrify me. Why was I born to be so miserable? You were born to be happy, I answered, or at least to be useful and contented. Your fear of death is perfectly natural, and I hope it will be many a long day before you are able to recall upon a precious as possession as life. Remember, you have only one life. Use it well. You will have to account for it some day. And now, goodbye. I returned to London, and in about a week's time I received a letter from Miss Temple. It satisfied me thoroughly. Lady Violet was better. She went out for a little daily. She read to herself and allowed Miss Temple to read to her. She was interested in a fancy fair which was to be held in the neighborhood, and was helping Miss Temple to work for it. The nurse had also discovered that her patient had a love, almost passion, for music. Miss Temple was an accomplished pianist before she took up her present profession, and she and Lady Violet spent a considerable portion of each day over the piano. In short, Miss Temple was doing all that I expected her to do for the young girl whose life was so valuable. Lady Violet was undoubtedly already acquiring the outward view, which means both health of mind and body. Miss Temple's first letter was followed, of course, by another, which was more hopeful than the first. Lady Violet was devotedly attached to her, and could scarcely bear her out of the presence. The girls rode together, walked together, sketched and played together. The color of health was coming back to Lady Violet's pale cheeks, and would soon, in Miss Temple's opinion, be restored to perfect health. Lady Erskfield also wrote to me about this time, and spoke in rapture of the companion whom I had secured for her daughter. I cannot tell you what the Barrow Temple was to us, she said. We owe Violet's recovery to her wonderful tact, her sympathy, her genius. She is like no girl I ever met before. She fascinates and subjugates us all. We do not want ever to part with her. As to Violet, it would almost kill her, I think, were Barrow Temple to leave us now. About a month after receiving these two letters, I was astonished and much pleased to see an announcement in the Morning Post to the effect that a matrimonial alliance was arranged between Lady Violet Dalrymple, only daughter of the Earl and Countess of Erskfield, to Captain Geoffrey Ponsonby of Coldstream Guards, that the marriage was likely to take place in December. On reading this short paragraph, I turned to my casebook, and under Lady Violet's name made the following note. A case in Rathmina in which environment and moral treatment caused recovery. I then dismissed the subject from my mind, with the final reflection that I should not have much more to do with Lady Violet. The following circumstances quickly proved my mistake. On the evening of that same day, I had a letter from Miss Temple confirming the news of the approaching marriage, telling me that it had been contemplated for some time by the parents of the young people, but that a formal engagement had been deferred owing to the state of Lady Violet's health. Captain Ponsonby had arrived at Beeches about a fortnight ago, had proposed for Lady Violet, who accepted him, not without a certain unwillingness, and the marriage was arranged to take place immediately after Christmas. Lady Violet is not as well as I could wish, continued Miss Temple towards the close of her letter. At first she refused absolutely to engage herself to Captain Ponsonby, but yielded to the entreaties of both her parents, who are most desirous on the match. She is once more languid and inclined to be uninterested in her surroundings. I am not satisfied by her state, and deeply regret Captain Ponsonby's arrival. She is really in radiant health, and he came to the house a fortnight ago. Lord and Lady Erskfield had quite failed to observe their daughter's state of depression. They are both in the highest spirits, and active preparations for the wedding are going forward. The letter caused me uneasiness. It was followed almost immediately by seconds. Dear Dr. Halifax, wrote Miss Temple, I am in great, dreadful trouble, not alone about Lady Violet, whose condition alarms me much, but on my own account. In short, I am bewildered by the fearful calamity which has suddenly overtaken me. I have not a soul to confide in, and greatly long to see you. I know I must not expect you to come here, and yet it is impossible for me, under existing circumstances, to ask for a day off duty. God help me, I am the most unhappy girl in the world. Yours truly, Beryl Temple. I received this letter by the last post one night. It caused me some wakeful hours, for I was greatly puzzled how to act. By the morning I resolved to write a line to Lady Erskfield, telling her that I had heard from Miss Temple of Lady Violet's altered condition, and was offering to come to see her. That letter was not destined to be written, however. As I was sitting at breakfast, a telegram was put into my hand. It was from Lord Erskfield, requesting me to go to Beach's immediately. I started off by an early train and arrived at my destination about noon. I was shown at once to the reception room, where Lady Erskfield waited me. It is good of you to respond so quickly to our telegram, she said. We are in terrible trouble here. Violet is in a strange condition. She is very feverish. Her strength seems completely gone. She lies hour after hour moaning to herself and takes little notice of anyone. How long has this state of things gone on? I asked. The complete breakdown only took place yesterday, but Miss Temple assures me that Violet has been failing for some time. Her father and I noticed one or two occasions that she seemed pale and languid, but as there was a great deal to excite her, we put her fatigue down to that source. Under your judicious treatment and the admirable care Miss Temple gave her, we considered her perfectly recovered, and it did not enter into our minds that the recurrence of the old attack was possible. When you speak of Lady Violet having much to excite her, you doubtlessly allude to her engagement, I said. I saw it officially announced in the Morning Post. I judged from it that she had quite recovered. Lady Erskfield colored. We thought so, she said. Her father and I both thought so. We were much pleased with the contemplated marriage, and we imagined that our child was happy, too. Captain Ponsonby is all that anyone can desire. And you have reason not to be satisfied now? I asked. The fact is this, said Lady Erskfield shortly. Violet is unhappy. She does not wish the engagement to go on. She told Miss Temple so this morning. I have seen my dear child on the subject an hour ago. We cannot account for her caprice in this matter. I will see Lady Violet now, if you will permit me, I said. The engagement is doubtless the cause of the strange breakdown. Will you take me to her room? Lady Erskfield led the way without a word. I found my patient even worse than her mother had given me to understand. In addition to the much nervous trouble, she had unquestionably taken a chill of some sort, the symptoms of pneumonia which were manifesting themselves. When I bent over her, I noticed the deep flush in her cheeks. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was short and hurried. Miss Temple was standing by the bedside. She gave me an earnest glance. Her face was as pale as Lady Violet's was flushed. I noticed Lady Erskfield avoiding speaking to the nurse, who, on her part, moved slightly away as she approached. The despair, however, which must have filled the poor mother's heart as she watched her suffering child, might in itself account for her manner. I was very anxious to see the nurse alone, and asked Lady Erskfield if I could do so. Certainly, she answered. I will watch here until Miss Temple is able to resume her duties. I will not be long away, answered Beryl. She took me at once into Lady Violet's pretty little boudoir, and shut the door. "I must be quick," she said. "My place is with Violet. You think her very ill?" "I do," I answered. "Her life is in danger. She is threatened with pneumonia. If her symptoms grow worse, she will not have the strength to bear up under another attack." "Then I must not think of myself. Even I can manage to soothe her, as no one else can. Let me go back." "Sit down," I answered. "You will not be long fit for a nurse unless you look after yourself. What is the matter with you? You have changed greatly." "Did I not tell you in my letter that I am in great trouble?" Miss Temple's words were interrupted by a knock at the door of the boudoir. She said, "Come in," and a manservant entered. He approached Lady Violet's little writing table, disturbed a book or two, and finally retreated with an ABC in his hand, apologizing as he did so. "Do you know the man?" I asked Miss Temple. "One of the servants," I replied. Never mind him. Give me your trouble as quickly as possible." "He is connected with it, unfortunately. He is not one of the usual servants of the house, although he wears the livery. That man is a detective from Scotland Yard, and he came into the room just now to watch me. He or his fellow detectives, for there are two here, watch me wherever I go. On one excuse or another, they enter each room where I am found." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I will tell you in as few words as possible. Can you wonder that I am changed?" "I am lost in conjecture as to what you can possibly mean," I answered, looking at her anxiously. In truth, I had cause for my anxiety. Her fine face looked absolutely aged and worn. Her eyes were almost too large. Their expression was strained. They had heavy black lines under them. Her mouth showed extreme dejection. When I remembered the blooming, healthful girl who I had sent to Beaches 2 months ago, I was appalled at the change. "Speak," I said. "I am deeply interested. You know that I will do everything in my power to help you." "This is my story," she said. "Lady Violet got quite well. I was much attached to her, and we were very happy. It seemed like the old life back again, when my mother was alive and when I had a luxurious home. Lord and Lady Erskfield treated me much more like a daughter than a nurse. Lady Violet was my dear sister. Then Captain Ponsonby came. He proposed and was accepted. Immediately after the engagement, Lady Violet drooped. She no longer gave me her confidence. She lost her appetite. She became constrained and silent. Once or twice I caught her crying. She turned away when I tried to ask her. Lord and Lady Erskfield noticed no change. Captain Ponsonby came and went as an honored guest. No one seemed to notice the efforts Lady Violet made to seem at home in his society. One morning, about 10 days ago, Lady Erskfield, accompanied by Captain Ponsonby, came into this room, where I was reading aloud to my dear little patient. I could not imagine why they did not observe her pale cheeks and her languor. I saw, however, that at a glance the Lady Erskfield was in a high state of excitement and delight. She held up a jewel case in her hand. She opened it and, bending down, showed its glistening contents to her daughter. I was startled at the effect on Lady Violet. She clapped her hands in ecstasy and sat upright on the sofa. Her eyes had grown suddenly bright and her cheeks rosy. "How I adore diamonds," she said. "And what beauties these were! Oh, you lovely creatures! But, Mother, why do you show them to me?" "They're my present to you, Violet," said Captain Ponsonby. "Those diamonds are heirlooms in my family, and of great value. They will be yours when we are married." "Come and look at them, Beryl," exclaimed Lady Violet. "Are they not splendid?" She spoke as she lifted a diamond necklace of extraordinary brilliancy and a quaint device out of the case. I knelt down by her and examined the gems with a delight almost equal to her own. I've always had a great love for jewels, and diamonds in particular, and these were quite the most magnificent I had ever seen. The necklace was accompanied by a tiara and earrings, and gems were worth, Lady Ursula said, from 15 to 20,000 pounds. We spent some time examining and criticizing them. Violet sent for a looking-glass from one of the bedrooms in order to see the effects of the jewels around her throat. She insisted on my trying them on as well as herself. Lady Violet is fair, but as far as I know, I am very dark. I could not help seeing for myself that the jewels suited me. Lady Violet uttered an exclamation when she saw them on me. "You look very beautiful, Beryl," she said. I laughed and was about to answer her when I met Captain Ponsonby's eyes. There was something in his expression which I did not quite like. I unfastened the necklace quickly and laid it back on its violet bed. "Thank you for letting me try it on," I said. "If I feel for one brief moment I had imprisoned a rainbow." I don't know why I said those words. They did me no good afterwards, but I was excited at the time. The magnificent diamonds had really cast a spell over me. Lady Ursfield suggested that Violet should go out for her usual ride. "No, Mother, I am too tired," she replied. "I will drive instead, and Beryl shall come with me." "Run and get ready, then," Lady Ursfield said to me. I was leaving the room when she suddenly called me back. "My dear," she said, giving me the case which held the diamonds as she spoke, "will you have the goodness to take these to my room and lock them up in my jewel safe? Here's the key. You must turn the lock twice, and when revolving the shutter moves back, there's a smaller key to unlock the inner compartment. Put the case in there, and bring me back the keys when you have changed your dress." I promised to obey and ran off with a light heart. The safe where Lady Ursfield kept her jewels was built into a wall, and was a very ingenious device. Following her directions implicitly, I opened it, placed the case within, and locked the safe carefully again. Then I went and changed my dress and returned the keys to Lady Ursfield. Captain Ponsonby, Lady Violet, and I had a pleasant drive, and nothing more was said about the diamonds. I really think we all forgot them. The next morning, Lady Violet came down to breakfast, looking so ghastly pale and depressed that even her mother uttered an exclamation of surprise when she saw her. "My darling, you look positively ill," she said, going up and kissing her. Lady Violet gave a startled and queer look. She made some remark in a very low voice and with a pettish movement. She then crossed the room to my side, and Lady Ursfield did not question her any further. Just as we were leaving for the breakfast table, Captain Ponsonby announced his intention of running up to town for the day, and suggested suddenly we should take the diamonds with him in order to give the jeweler plenty of time to reset them in the most thorough manner. "That is a good thought, Geoffrey," said Lady Ursfield. So she turned to me. "You know where the jewels are, Beryl," she said. "Here are my keys. Run there and fetch them. I don't allow even my own maids to know the secret of my jewel safe." She continued, looking at Captain Ponsonby as we spoke. I ran away, reached Lady Ursfield's room, unlocked the safe, and put in my hand to take the case out. It had vanished. I searched for it at first without uneasiness, and then with bewilderment, and then a sort of frantic terror. There was an empty spot on the floor of the safe where I had placed the case. There were other cases of jewels pushed aside, and then a little confusion, but the Ponsonby diamonds had absolutely vanished. The full horror of the situation had not yet burst upon me. I had not yet even begun to think that anyone would suspect me. Nevertheless, I felt sick with a sort of nameless terror. I locked the safe and returned with the breakfast room. Lord Ursfield was standing by the hearse, talking to Captain Ponsonby. Lady Ursfield was reading the Times, and Violet was kneeling on the floor, playing with her favorite puck. The peaceful faces added to my misery. I know I must have looked wild and frightened. I know when I spoke that my voice must have shaken. "The diamonds are gone," I said. "They are not in the safe." It was just as if I had flung a bomb into the midst of a cheerful party. Lord Earthfield drew himself in a dazed expression. Captain Ponsonby turned white. Lady Earthfield, with a sharp cry, rushed from the room, snatching the keys from my hand as she did so. There's no use in Lady Earthfield's examining the safe, I said. The diamonds are certainly not there. I've searched all the shelves. The spot where I placed them yesterday is empty. The case has vanished. I don't believe it, said Violet. The diamonds must be there. You must be mistaken, Beryl. I made no reply, but when the others left the room, I followed. We now went up to the body of Lady Earthfield's room, and the safe was certainly examined by Lord Earthfield and Captain Ponsonby. The case containing the diamonds was indeed missing, but not another jewel. Not even the smallest ring had been touched. There was no mark on the safe having been tampered with in any way, as it was made to be a perfectly unique pattern. And there was not supposed to be a key in the world to fit it, except special ones made for it. The whole affair seemed burned, hopelessly married. No one accused me in any way, and it never occurred to me as I stood in the room to accuse myself. We discussed the matter in all its bearings. We stood around the open safe and talked until we were tired. I described the exact position in which I had placed the case. Lady Earthfield was certain from that moment I returned her keys that they had not been out of her possession until she had gone again placed them in my hands that morning. Finally, we left the room in a state of hopeless bewilderment. Violet and I went away by ourselves, and sitting down together discussed the strange mystery from every point of view. The loss of the jewels had much excited her. She had regained her color, and her manner was quite animated. I thought at least I should have the diamonds, she said, in a queer sort of desolate echo in her voice. And I love diamonds. They seem to comfort me in the strangest way. I feel akin to them. When they sparkle and leap and glitter, they appear to me to be alive. They tell me secrets of the strange things they have witnessed in their course of long existence. Think, if the Ponsonby Diamonds could speak, what stories they could have, their queer things they have seen and heard. Huh, Beryl? I tried to turn the conversation. Lady Violet was always worse after indulging in wild talk of this sort. We have now to consider how to get the Ponsonby Diamonds back, I said. Who can have stolen them? We talked the matter threadbare, arriving, of course, at no conclusion. At lunch we were surprised to find that Captain Ponsonby had not gone to London. When the servants withdrew, we were told that the affair of the diamonds had been put not only into the hands of the local police, but in the authorities of Scotland Yard had been communicated with, and that in all probability a couple of detectives would be sent to the beaches that night. We've decided, said Lord Earthfield, not to say anything of our loss until the servants. The person who stole these diamonds is quite clever enough to hide them if the least alarm is raised. Our best chance of recovering the treasure is through detectives, who will come here in course in plain clothes. We're expecting several fresh guests tomorrow, and in the consequence the servants have heard that 2 new men servants from London are coming to help them. They have communicated this fact to Scotland Yard, and the men will be provided with the house library. After making the statement, which he did very briefly, Lord Earthfield left the room. The early part of the afternoon passed listlessly. Lady Violet was once more pale, deadly tired, and too languid to care about anything. I persuaded her to lie down and offered to read her to sleep. No, she answered. I don't want anyone to read to me. I will shut my eyes and think of the diamonds. Go and take your walk, Beryl. You look pale and tired yourself. I saw she did not want me, and, putting on my hat, I went out on the stroll. I had gone a little way from the house when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned and saw, to my surprise, The Captain Ponsonby was following me. I noticed that you had gone out, he said, and took liberty of coming after you. He grew red as he spoke. I want to say something to you, he said. Something of importance. Can we go somewhere where we can be alone? I told him that I was going to walk through the shrubbery, and that he might, if he pleased, accompany me there. But, I added, I shall not be out long, for I am anxious about Lady Violet and want to return to her. We entered the shrubbery as I spoke. He did not speak at all for a moment. Then he said, with a sort of abruptness which surprised me, I will not keep you long. I am glad of this opportunity. Here he paused, and turning, looked full on me in the face. If you will give me back the diamonds, he said, I will faithfully promise to arrange matters so that not a breath of suspicion shall rest upon you. I felt as if his words were a shot. His words took me completely by surprise, that I could not find either breath nor speech for a moment. Do you really think, I said then, in choking voice, it is possible that you think that I may have stolen the diamonds? I suppose my agitation confirmed his suspicions. He looked at me with this queer sort of pity. I could see yesterday how struck you were with their beauty, he said. Do you remember what you said about imprisoning the rainbow? The opportunity to take the diamonds was put into your hands. You could not resist the sudden temptation, but I am sure you are sorry now, and would return them if it were possible. I believe I can manage for you to do this, if you'll confide in me. I turned quickly. My face was hot. My heart was beating so fast I thought it would burst. Come with me at once to Lady Erskfield, I said. Say those words again in her presence. She shall search all of my possessions. Come, don't delay a moment. You must be mad, he said. For heaven's sake, don't inculpate yourself in that manner. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only person who, at present, suspects you. It has never, I know, ever entered Violet's head that you could have had anything to do with the robbery, and Lord and Lady Erskfield, I'm sure, think of you as innocent as themselves. They're the most loyal people in the world. They believe, and rightly, that they owe Violet's life to you. I don't think they can ever harbor an unkind thought to you. Lord Erskfield and I have talked over the loss for a couple of hours this morning. Your name has not once been mentioned connected with it. I alone... You alone, I interrupted, entertain the horrible doubt against a defenseless girl. I'm very sorry, he replied in a steady voice, but it is not even a doubt. Here he looked full at me. In my mind it takes a form of certainty. It is absolutely impossible that anyone else could have taken the diamonds. They're gone. You are the last seen with them. You put them into the safe. You returned the keys to Lady Erskfield, who did not let them out of her possession until the morning she gave them to you again. You must see for yourself what the logical conclusion is. You are the culprit. No one else has come to that logical conclusion, I answered. I am a man of the world, he replied. I stood perfectly still for a moment. His cool assurance seemed to deprive me of almost all the power of thought. I turned to walk towards the house, but he barred my path. What can I do to induce you to be guided by my common sense? He said. I can understand the sudden temptation. If you return the jewels to me, not a shadow of suspicion shall ever rest upon you from any other quarter. I think, I said in a trembling voice, that the only thing for me to do is to be here to my first resolution, to see Lady Erskfield in your presence, to ask you to accuse me of the theft before her, to insist upon having all my possessions searched, and then to leave Beeches immediately. You won't screen yourself by any such plan, said Captain Ponsonby. Nay, your wish to leave Beeches will seem to all interested in the certain proof of your guilt. I wish I could get you to understand that I do not feel unkindly to you, that I am sincerely anxious to be your friend in the matter. I know you to be guilty. If you protested from now until doomsday, the conviction in my mind would still be unshaken. May I state the case very briefly to you? Will you try and listen if I were telling you about some other girl? You took the diamonds in a moment of acute temptation. You are, I presume, a penniless girl. You admire the gems not only for themselves, but also for the effect they produced when they shone like so many suns around your warm white throat. The price of these jewels was named in your presence. If you could sell them, you would be rich. If you could keep them and wear them, you would be beautiful enough to turn any man's head. Yes, I understand. I pity. I am most anxious to screen you. No one else suspects you at present at Beaches, but the sad state of things will not continue here there much longer. As soon as the detectives arrive from London, their suspicions will naturally be fastened on you. Your youth and apparent innocence will no doubt receive them. They will whisper doubts into the minds of Lord and Lady Erskfield, and also into the mind of Lady Violet. The Ponsonby Diamonds are of immense historical importance. They have been mixed up with the fortunes of the family for a couple of centuries, and it is absolutely impossible that a girl like you can hide them successfully. Go where you will never be able to sell that necklace and pendant. Each diamond has a story and can be traced by experts into whatever hands it falls. You could never sell the necklace, nor would you ever dare wear it, except in the privacy of your room. I beg you, therefore, to let me have it back, and I solemnly swear that the secret shall never pass my lips. I listened to Captain Ponsonby's speech with great attention. The buzzing in my ears and the great tumult round my heart had now a considerable extent subsided. I was able to bring my common sense to bear upon the matter, and to absolutely force myself to look at the facts in the face that were being presented to me by Captain Ponsonby's point of view. Strange as it may seem, my whole nature became subjected to a sort of revulsion, and far now from being angry at Captain Ponsonby for his accusations, I could not but admire something chivalrous in him which made him come as though he thought to my assistance. My only wonder was that the Erskfields and Lady Violet were not also convinced of my guilt. I remained silent, therefore, for a couple of minutes before I replied. I understand, I said then, slowly. You have explained the position of affairs. I see plainly how very black the circumstantial evidence is against me. I am not surprised at your suspicions, and my wonder is that they are not shared by the rest of the family. As it happens, I am not the thief you imagine me. When I said this, he sighed heavily, shook his head, and turning, began to walk slowly with me towards the house. I am not a thief, I continued, for the simple reason that the temptation you spoke of did not exist. The beauty of the gemstones attracted me yesterday, but I looked at them with pleasure, as I look at all lovely things, but I never coveted them. The thought never even occurred to me to wish to possess them. I am not as other girls. My life is consecrated to the cause of suffering and pain. I live to help people who are obliged to keep me on the shady side of life. My whole mind and heart are occupied with these people and their concerns. I do not want money, for my profession supplies me with plenty, and if I had diamonds 10 times as beautiful, when, as a professional nurse, could I ever wear them? I have listened to your side of the affair, and I must beg you listen to mine. You must see that for yourself the temptation's non-existent. It could not be acted upon. I believe you mean kindly by all that you have said, and I thank you for your kindness. Now I will go indoors. I left him. He did not say another word, but I saw by his expression on his face that I had only puzzled him without convincing him. I went straight up to my own room, and sitting down, thought over the queer turn of events. The horror of the thing grew greater and greater the more I thought it over. I felt torn in two, longing one moment to rush to Lady Erskfield and tell her everything, and the next being kept back by the thought that by doing so I might only put a suspicion into her head which did not exist. I was presently sent for to attend to Violet. She had awakened after a bad dream and was very uncomfortable in a depressed condition. Notwithstanding my own great unhappiness, I could see that she had something on her mind, but although I did not all my power not to break the ice, I could not get her to talk to me in a free and natural manner. That evening the detectives arrived from London. The next day several visitors to the house. Everything went on with the outward smoothness, and the subject of diamonds was a mutual consent never to be alluded to. Lady Violet grew worse, and the gay house party dispersed sooner than was intended. Captain Ponsonby stayed on, however. I met him occasionally, but we scarcely exchanged a word. I could see that he was anxious and haggard, but I set this down to his fears with regard to Lady Violet, who steadily refused to see him, and never left her bedroom and boudoir. I spent almost all of my time with her, but as the days wore on I could not but feel the horror of my position more and more. I saw plainly that the suspicion which Captain Ponsonby harbored was shared by the two detectives, and also, in the process of time, the poisonous thought was communicated to Lord and Lady Ersfield. Lady Ersfield's manner to me completely altered. Instead of treating me with almost affectionate of a mother, she was cold and distant. She avoided meeting my eyes, and she never spoke to me on the subject except what related to Violet's health. That is the position of affairs today, Dr. Halifax. I'm suspected of the most horrible theft, and have not a chance of clearing myself. Lady Violet alone loves me as old. She is my dear sister, and for her sake The poor girl completely broke down, and covered her face with her hands, sobbing aloud. Take courage, I said to her. I have at least one bit of comfort for you. I also fully believe you. You no more stole the diamonds than I did. Oh, thank you. That is like you, she said. God bless you for those words. I am glad I have come here for every reason, I continued. My presence here is necessarily not only on the account of Lady Violet, but also on your account. I introduce you to this house and am responsible for your conduct. I shall therefore not leave a stone unturned to clear you, and now you must go back to your work with such a brave heart as you can. She rose at once, wiping her eyes and trying to look cheerful. One word before you return to Lady Violet, I said. Is it true that she was broken off the engagement? Yes. Lady Ersfield told me that she gave you her confidence in the matter. Yes, she spoke to me this morning. Do you mind telling me what she said? She was very weak and had a difficulty in using her voice, but she whispered to me. Her words were something like these. Tell my father and mother that I do not love Captain Ponsonby and will never marry him. From the first he never attracted me, and now when there is no inducement, not even the diamonds. Did she really say not even the diamonds? Yes, she certainly did. I had thought it strange at the time. It was undoubtedly strange. Now go back to your patient and keep up all the courage you can. I shall remain at Beaches until tomorrow, and even longer if necessary. I wish to take care of Lady Violet myself tonight, in order to give you rest. Miss Temple left the room, and after thinking matters over, I went downstairs. Captain Ponsonby was still in the house. When I abruptly entered one of the drawing rooms, I found him talking with Lady Ersfield. Can I speak to you? I said to the lady. Certainly, she replied, starting up. Is Violet worse? What is the matter? There is no change in Lady Violet's condition, I replied. What I have to speak to you refers to Miss Temple. Captain Ponsonby arose when I said this and prepared to leave the room. I interrupted his movement. I beg of you not to go, I said. I particularly want you to hear what I have come to say. He turned and walked slowly back to one of the windows. I could see by his expression on the face that he was a good deal annoyed. He was a handsome, soldierly-looking man, at least 35 years, with a somewhat overbearing manner. I can understand a childlike Lady Violet shrinking from him in a possible fear, and yet There's nothing underhand about him. I could see that he was scrupulously honorable, although his tact would probably not be the finest. I should like you to hear what I have got to say, I continued, for you seem to be mixed up in the matter. I refer to the loss of the diamonds. Oh, the diamonds, exclaimed Lady Erskfield. Do you suppose we, any of us, care about them in this terrible sorrow like this? Pardon me, I continued. There is one person who cares a great deal about them, a young girl who came here under my recommendation. I allude to Miss Temple. It seems to me that you, sir, here I turned to Captain Ponsonby, have accused Miss Temple in the most unmistakable manner of having stolen the diamonds. You accused her of the theft nearly 10 days ago, and since she has no reason to believe you, Lady Erskfield, share the suspicion. Lady Erskfield's face grew pale and troubled. Beryl has told you, she exclaimed. Poor child, I feared that she would not fail to see the alteration in my manner. Try hard as I would to hide my feelings, I could not treat her as I did before. Well, she continued, I'm sorry, deeply sorry to say that we are, with the exception of Violet, suspect you now. She alone had access to the safe, and not a breath of suspicion falls on anyone else. Miss Temple has managed to hide the diamonds with wonderful skill for the time being, but in the end she must betray herself. We wish, if possible, to avoid having her arrested. She is closely watched, however, and therefore can little doubt of her guilt. And believing this, I said in a stern voice, you allow this girl to continue to nurse your daughter. Certainly, replied Lady Erskfield. In Violet's present condition, it would kill her to part with Miss Temple. I had some difficulty in controlling my anger. I'm glad I have come, I said, after a pause, and that not only has Lady Violet's account. I cannot leave Beaches until this matter is satisfactorily cleared up. It is my firm conviction that Miss Temple no more stole the diamonds than you did, Miss Lady Erskfield. Lady Erskfield muttered something back, which I could not quite hear. I say with the utmost truth that we are only too anxious to clear Miss Temple of this horrible suspicion, if it can be done, remarked Captain Ponsonby. Oh, certainly, most certainly, added Lady Erskfield. Anything you can suggest, Dr. Halifax. Her words were interrupted. There came a hurried message from the sick room. Lady Violet had awakened in a high state of delirium. Lady Erskfield and I both hurried to her side. I saw that the case was truly one of life or death, and nothing further was said about the diamonds for the present. Toward evening, the sick girl seemed to grow a little easier. She sank into another heavy slumber, and I saw, with satisfaction, that the remedies I had employed were already getting the pneumonia under condition. I arranged now that Miss Temple was to have a night's rest, and that Lady Erskfield and I should watch the patient for the night. Lady Erskfield lay down on the sofa at the far end of the spacious bedroom, and I sat down by Lady Violet. Her sleep was frequently broken by sharp cries of pain and distress, but I generally managed by a firm word or touch to control her wild fits of delirium. She did not know me, however, although she submitted immediately when I spoke to her. I had many anxious thoughts to occupy me during the night watches. These were chiefly around the Barrow Temple. I could not help seeing that there were an abundant ground on the suspicion which were attached to her. She was, I knew well, innocent. But unless the diamonds were discovered, grave doubts would always arise when the name was mentioned. I did not think the Erskfields would prosecute her, but I almost wished them to do so in order to bring the matter to an issue. As the night wore on, I fell for a few moments into an uneasy sleep. I needed my sleep, and I dreamt of the diamonds. I saw them sparkling around the neck of Lady Violet, whose eyes shone with a strange, fierce fire, which made them look almost as bright as the glittering gems. I woke with certain words on my lips. Lady Violet said them to Miss Temple. There's no inducements to my marriage, not even the diamonds. I thought the words queer at the time and pondered them over now. Rising from my chair, I went over to the bed and looked at the sick girl. She was breathing more quietly. I laid my hand on her forehead and knew at once that her temperature was less high. I went across the room to Lady Ersfield. She had been asleep, but woke when I approached her. "I think the patient is a shade easier," I said. The poor mother uttered a thankful exclamation. "I will go and sit by her now for an hour or two," she answered. "I've had a long sleep and am refreshed. Won't you lie down, Dr. Halifax? I will call you if Violet requires anything." I told her that I would go to the crowded room and lie on the sofa. I was in a habit of a light sleeper, and the least word from Lady Ersfield would bring me back to my patient. I lay down, and in a moment was asleep. I had not slept long when the sound of conversation in the sick room aroused me. I sprang to my feet and went back there at once. Lady Ersfield did not hear me. She was standing, facing the bed. Lady Violet was sitting up and speaking in an eager voice. "I'm better," she said. "Mother, I want the diamonds. Mother, get them for me. I want to feel them and look at them again. They will comfort me. Mother, do you get them for me, the Ponsonby Diamonds? You know what I mean. Do, Mother, do fetch me the Ponsonby Diamonds." "You must lie down," I said, going to the other side of the bed. "Here, let me cover you up." She turned to look at me. I forced her back to put her pillow and put the bedclothes over her. "Who are you?" she inquired, gazing at me with her bright eyes. 2 bright eyes. "Your friend and doctor. My name is Halifax." "Oh, have you come back again, Dr. Halifax? I like you very much. Thank you for sending me Beryl. I love Beryl. Where is she now?" "Lying down, tired out. You must not disturb her. Your mother and I will do anything for you that you want. Now, you must not talk any more. Let me give you this drink." She allowed me to put my hand under her head to raise her. I drank a little milk and soda water with a sigh of relief. "That is nice," she said. "I am so thirsty." "Turn on your side now and go to sleep." I cannot. Are you there, Mother? Mother, don't leave me. Mother, won't you give me the diamonds? I shall sleep sound, very sound, if I wear them around my neck. Do, Mother, dear, give me the Ponsonby Diamonds. You don't know how I long for them." "My darling," said Lady Ersfield, falling suddenly on her knees to the bedside and bursting into tears. "I would give them to you if I could, but they are lost, Violet. The Ponsonby Diamonds are lost." "Oh, no, they aren't, Mother," replied the girl in a voice of astonishment. "They're in my jewel case, in the lower drawer. The case which holds the diamonds just fits into the lower drawer of my jewel case. You will find my keys on the dressing table. Do fetch the diamonds, Mother." Lady Ersfield sprang to her feet and looked with a kind of horrified consternation at her child. "No, my love," she said then, in a soothing voice. "You are dreaming. You are not well. You have had a bad dream. Go to sleep, my dear darling. Go to sleep." "But I am not dreaming," said Lady Violet. "The Ponsonby Diamonds are in my dressing case. I remember putting them there quite well. I had forgotten, but I remember quite well now. Dr. Halifax, won't you fetch them?" "Certainly," I replied. "Lady Ersfield, will you direct me to Lady Violet's jewel case?" "Yes," replied Lady Ersfield. The poor woman staggered rather than walked across the room. She gave me the key to the jewel case. I opened it and lifted out several compartments until I came to the bottom drawer. There lay an old-fashioned Morocco case. I opened it, and the Ponsonby jewels in all their magnificence lay before me. "My God, what does this mean?" gasped Lady Ersfield. "Hush," I said. "Don't say anything. Take them to her." "You must do it. I cannot," she moaned. I took the case up to the bedside. Lady Violet gave a little cry of rapture when she saw it. In a twinkling, she had lifted the necklace from its bed of ruby velvet. and clasped it around her white throat. "Oh, how beautiful the sparkling treasures!" she exclaimed. "How I love you! How you comfort me!" She lay down at once and closed her eyes. In a moment she was in a sound sleep, dreamless. The case was one, without any doubt, of a sudden and acute kleptomania. This strange nervous disorder had in all probability been developed in Lady Violet by the depressions caused by her uncongenial engagement to Captain Ponsonby. The whole thing was now clear as daylight. Poor Lady Violet was an unconscious thief. She had stolen the diamonds and then forgotten about all of her theft. In her delirium, memory returned to her, and her desire to possess the gems, she recalled where she had placed them. How she had secured the keys from the safe was an unsolved mystery for another time, but Lady Erskfield, in thinking matters over, remembered how closely Violet had sat by her side on the sofa of the drawing rooms the evening before the loss was discovered. "She was often fond of putting her hand in my pocket and playing," said the lady. "It was a trick of hers as a child, and I used to be quite cross about it sometimes. She must have transferred the keys from my pockets to her own on the occasion, gone upstairs and removed the diamonds from my jewel safe to her own jewel case, and then once more slipped the keys back into my pocket." This explanation seemed sufficiently likely to satisfy people. Anyhow, no other was ever forthcoming. Poor Beryl was, of course, restored to higher favor than ever. Indeed, Lord and Lady Erskfield felt that they could not possibly make enough of her. The finding of the diamonds was a turning point in Lady Violet's illness. She slept for many hours with sparkling gems round her neck, and when she awoke, it was to consciousness and recovery. The diamonds were returned to Captain Ponsonby on the following day, and the engagement between him and Lady Violet was at an end. There's only one strange thing to add to this strange story. Lady Violet has never, from the moment of her awakening to now, alluded to the Ponsonby Diamonds. It is my belief that she has forgotten all about them, and as far as I can tell, I do not think she will ever be visited by another attack of kleptomania. Okay. That was unexpected. And me taking a drink makes my bottle go into a seizure. Good to know. And I did get to the point that I was able to try to get my microphone muted when I needed to cough or blow my nose. So, since I'm hearing my own breath gurgling a little, I should probably stop there for the night. One story's not bad, I guess. That one story did take the full hour. So, sorry. Let's see who all was on that we can read. Have to get to the right window. Let's see. Talk is on. Odie's on. It says Oni's on, but And dusk is on. Ow. Anyone have any suggestions? I mean, I'm lurking in most of them. No, I think I'll read only. So, thank you everyone for coming in, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow night for Fairy Tales. Just because. Those are the raid messages. If you want to do follower raid, that's the first one. Subscribers, it's the second. I only said subscribers for the second one because, well, if you're, well, I don't know, if you're subscribed, you should be able to use the emotes in another chat. I don't know. Question is, can anyone else hear? Take my hand. The other audio. We're off to Never Neverland. Something's wrong. Shut the light. Heavy thoughts tonight, and they aren't Snow White. Dreams of war, dreams of liars, dreams of dragons, fire, and the hope everyone has a great night. And let's go past the level with one eye open, gripping your pillow tight. Exit light. So I will see you over there. Enter night. Take my hand. We're off to Never Neverland.